What's up, good people? I'm Just Major. We're here to talk about it. Vehicle prices. They're going up like housing prices, if not at the same rate or higher. But let's check out what's going on.
Car prices are near all-time highs, and yet sales are rising. And that's mainly thanks.
Ooh, that's a sweet house. That's a sweet car too, but that house is pretty sweet itself. I think that's the Lucid. I don't know which edition that is. I think they got an Air and Sapphire or something like that. But I remember reading a few months ago, about Lucid Air. I know they're supposed to get up to about 500 miles per charge. And I saw an article, like a Facebook article or something like that, where one guy changed the wheels on his Lucid. I think they were modern or standard 20 or 19-inch wheels, and he changed them to like 18-inch wheels or something like that because he wasn't getting the full 500 miles on the full charge. I think he was getting like 350 or something like that. But he ended up changing the wheels rather, and ended up getting up to the 500 miles, if not just a little over that. But yeah, it's a sweet car still, though.
To the rich. 8 months into 2025, the share of new cars costing more than $50,000 is almost double what it was 6 years ago. It's not
Double what it was 6 years ago. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's crazy.
not just because automakers are charging more across the board. It's because the share of vehicles at the highest prices has grown. Reality is, the automaker.
I don't know if that was a Tahoe or Escalade. It looked like a Tahoe. And I remember seeing one. Man, it had, and I didn't know vehicles were still doing this, but it had TVs in the headrests, and the first four seats. Well, of course, the driver and the passenger seats, it had TVs in the back. And then the two seats in the middle row, they had TVs in the back of that in the headrest. Like, wow, man, that vehicle had to be at least 125.
Makers are in the business to make money. And this market, because of higher income households buying a greater percentage of the vehicles, has shifted to the upper end. Like it or not, that's the reality if you look at the numbers.
While dealer profits were up 20% in Q2 2025, economists are concerned. A lot of Americans are struggling to pay bills and get loans. Meanwhile, companies are growing ever more reliant on a smaller share of consumers for sales.
If that bubble bursts, that has pretty dramatic implications across the economy because so many companies have become so focused on catering to the demand of those high-end consumers.
We either need a much more viable alternative or something needs to happen in the financial markets that really loosens the ability for those buyers to purchase.
CNBC dove in to understand why the rich are propping up the new car market and what it says about the U.S. economy. In 2019, just about a quarter of new cars cost more than $50,000. Now it's nearly half. Just about 7% were over $60,000. That number is nearly quadrupled. And above $70K, that is more than tripled. Yep.
Man, almost quadruple for 2019 to 2025 for the vehicles that are just over 60 grand. Man, that's crazy. So let's say they're 60, right at 60 grand. So that's what, 2019, there were what, 15 grand. In 2025, that same vehicle is about 60 grand. Wow.
The average monthly loan payment was $749 in the second quarter of 2025, almost $200 more than it was in the same period of 2019. Leases were $612, also up. About 15% of monthly payments, including leases and loans, are over $1,000. There is something to be said for the idea that popular cars these days are just built to be expensive. Increases in new technology, safety equipment, some of which is federally mandated, New powertrain investments such as fuel efficiency and hybrid and EV battery technology, meeting stringent US regulations and providing choice, these all cost money.
We have over 600 variants in the market. We have a regulatory environment that requires homologation. That's incredibly expensive.
But some numbers suggest car prices haven't risen that much compared with other metrics. Based on government data, motor vehicle prices have outpaced overall inflation by a bit, but not overall wages and salary.
That's interesting because let's see, motor vehicle prices have outpaced overall inflation, but not wages and salaries. But it looks like wages and salaries here they're saying that wages and salaries are above overall inflation, nearly double. But it for doggone sure doesn't feel that way. Carry on.
On average, customers are paying about $49,000 to purchase a car. That, of course, is an average. About a quarter of new car sales went for less than 35. What is really going on is automakers are selling a lot more of far more expensive vehicles. Those cars are pulling up the average transaction price. The share of buyers with more than $150,000 in income made up 12% of all purchases in 2025, more than in 2019. That group is roughly at least twice the size of any other income group among new car purchasers. Here's a snapshot of the 10 most popular vehicles in America and what they sold for in June 2025. Of them, 5 are pickup trucks, and all of those, except the mid-sized Toyota Tacoma, cost more than...
Wow, the top 10, 5 are pickup truck. That's not too far removed from, pretty much where they were just even a couple of years ago, because the F-150 series has pretty much been, and the Silverado has pretty much been some of the highest selling trucks and vehicles, period, in the country. And and the Silverado and the Sierra, if you're looking at one from your rearview mirror, they look just like a full-size SUV. They're huge.
And $60,000. In the US, there are more vehicles for sale above $100,000 than there are below $30,000. That doesn't include exotics like Ferraris.
This started during the chip crisis when the automaker.
Yeah, more vehicles for sale over $100,000. I think you said 33, and then there are vehicles for sale under 30,000. That's 18. Yeah. So, which pretty much means that the average Americans are being priced out in the vehicle sales. They're being priced out. We're being priced out in the home industry as well, as far as home sales are concerned. So, yeah. So, man, if you're making, and they did a number about Americans making just over $100,000, the percentage of new auto vehicles that they're buying, I think it was like 12%. But yeah, if you're not making 100,000 or more, man, you got to get on your horse. You got to do some OT, get a second job, man, because we as Americans as a whole, on average, are being priced out. But that's all I got for you guys today, man. Y'all have a good one. Let me know what you think in the comments. 3 million subscribers. Loaded.